And we're here, Thursday Night Sports Nightly on the Husker Sports Network. Thank you so much for spending a part of your evening with us here tonight. Busy afternoon for Husker Athletic Director Bill Moose. He sat down with both the Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star to give them the latest update now that we know for sure that the Big Ten will no longer revisit playing football in the fall. Moose said that he has now been put on a committee that's being chaired by Wisconsin AD Barry Alvarez to try to piece together some kind of schedule to be played at the start of 2021, either January or maybe after the Super Bowl, Moose said. Two different options that they're looking at. Doesn't think that they'll have a plan ready for several weeks. He said it's not a perfect plan. Obviously, you're not going to be able to have home games. You're going to have to play in bubbles, dome stadiums in the Midwest. But that would allow the league to save some of their television revenue. As he said, there is no perfect plans, but, quote, our players want to play, our coaches want to coach, and our fans want to watch. The dome idea, Moose said, is somewhat predicated on the NBA's true bubble in Orlando. Quote, the NBA is playing in a non-traditional season in a bubble with no fans, and today nobody cares. Their TV ratings are terrible. Moose's concern is that and this is mine too, if the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC get their seasons done in the fall, that the country will have their fill of college football by January. He said, and now we're supposed to come in and keep them excited. I don't know if that's possible, but again, the players can play and the coaches can coach, and I guess that part of it is good. Benny went on to talk about the financial strain on the department. He said, as of right now, he does not have any plans to cut any of the varsity sports out of the budget for the year. He said, I have never cut a sport and don't plan on doing so, but he does say they are seriously looking at a reduction of their staff to get them through these tough times. He also said that among the athletic directors of the Big Ten, it was unanimous to try to play a fall football schedule, but that their vote wasn't the one that counted. It was obviously ultimately the presidents and the chancellors. So a lot of meat there from Bill Moose today. About a 45-minute chat with the Omaha World Herald and Lincoln Journal-Star today. What grabs you on some of those headlines?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is kind of the last thing that you said there about the vote. I think that kind of confirmed maybe what we thought, that not every university was on the same page with, the top down in terms of, who's in charge and who's putting the votes out. Thankfully, Nebraska was one of those schools, and everybody's visions kind of aligned. However, that wasn't the case around the league. So I think that kind of confirmed our suspicions there. And, if there was ever a doubt, Greg, that, where that disconnect happened, it stopped with the athletic directors. And if you're to continue to go down the line with the coaches and the players, I mean, I would guarantee you all the coaches wanted to coach, and a very high percentage of the players would want to play. So the disconnect came from those that voted down to the athletic directors. I think that's kind of where that disconnect elsewhere around the league. Again, not talking about Nebraska because it was pretty clear that everybody was on the same page. I think the dome thing's interesting. Again, what's it going to look like whenever this season comes to be is a big question I have. And the two big things that kind of sit with me are, number one, what Bill Moose said. I would echo that about, how relevant would this be? How relevant would the situation that's put in front of the Big Ten be around the country? I think that's a big question. And to me, the biggest thing that I have, and I said this either last night or the night before, is would this season put you more at a disadvantageous situation for future years? I understand the short-term gain of wanting to play some games, right? You want to save your eligibility. You want your players to be able to play. You want your coaches to be able to coach, maybe suck some TV money out of it. I understand all that, but competitively, is this going to put you further behind the eight ball for future years, starting next fall, starting the fall after that? I think that would seriously need to be looked at, and I don't know the answer to it. It's not like I'm sitting here saying that by playing this season, the Big Ten is going to be hamstrung for 3 or 4 years. I don't know that that's the case, But if you do some analysis and say this is a real possibility, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is this 1 year? Is this 6-game schedule with no championship? The lack of TV numbers, all those questions that you have, all those potential risks, are they worth playing when you could start fresh in 2021? I don't know the answer to that, but it's something that I think about. And if it means that the Big Ten could start fresh in 2021 like everybody else, and you can keep the same schedule and still try and go play in Ireland, still compete at that level, have enough time for your guys to be healed up, then I think that's something you got to look at. So those are kind of my big concerns with it. Again, I applaud every bit of effort that's going into this. Possible scenarios, schedules, where you're going to play, testing. I appreciate all that, and I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you weren't turning over every stone. So I hate to say it, but I'm kind of in the middle right now. I don't know how realistic it is to say we're going to tee a ball up in January and how relevant it's going to be.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think they have to be making these preparations. But to me, if those other 3 leagues are able to pull it off, it changes the dynamics. And Bill Moose said it as much there. Maybe the country will have had their fill of college football if they've watched those 3 leagues along with the AAC, the Sun Belt, and Conference UFA. If they all play their games, there'll be quite a bit of college football available to fans in September, October, November. And then maybe some postseason play out of some of those, and maybe a college football playoff. And then here comes the Big Ten and maybe perhaps the Pac-12. Yeah, it's kind of like how excited do you get for the XFL after the NFL finishes? I mean, you might watch 1 week and then you're like, yeah, I'm kind of ready to watch a different sport. I'm ready for college basketball. I'm ready for March Madness. I'm ready for that stuff to get going. So I think he's got that in the back of his mind, but they do have to prepare for this because, and there's a giant question mark whether those conferences can actually play this fall and finish it and do it. I mean, I don't even know that it's 50-50 that they do accomplish that this year. It's probably less than that. So if they fall apart and they're in the same boat now as you'll have a huge head start on kind of preparing and getting ready to do something come January. So to me, you got to do the work. You got to get prepared for it. But then you got to watch what happens with those other 3 leagues. I was really relieved to hear him say, as of now, and I know they've been working on this for probably a week now since the announcement by the commissioner last week, that they are not planning on cutting sports. And there's got to be some relief people that run those sports on campus, the coaches, the athletes that are part of that. It does sound like there's going to be a staff reduction. I hate that because you and I are both friends with a lot of people that work over there and were when they eliminated some positions back in June. So it's kind of, the mixed bag. He does admit they're going to have to reduce staff, but he's going to keep all the sports intact. It's kind of a mixed bag there, but that's the first glimpse we've gotten of how he's thinking moving ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining looking at the budget numbers and trying to figure out where you cut and where you don't. And this might be a terrible analogy, but when your iPhone fills up with storage, where's the first place you look to start deleting? It's the stuff that fills up the most space, right? Same thing with a budget. I mean, what's taking up the most money? And it's your sports and it's your staff, and that's kind of where you start. And, similarly to when you're going through your phone to try and delete stuff, it's like, okay, do I need these videos? Do I need these pictures? Do I need these text messages? Do I need these apps? And you wish you could have it all. I mean, you like your iPhone the way it is. You don't want to have to get rid of anything. But the thing that makes this difficult, Greg, is this isn't you need, half a gigabyte of space. This is like you got to delete more than half of your phone. And that's where it becomes frustrating, and, you feel like you're just banging your head against a wall because you got to find the money somewhere, and you got to start cutting things someplace. And it stinks to hear that it's probably going to be, at the benefit of some of our friends and people we've worked with for a long time. But I don't know how you come up with 85% of your budget, just laying around and try and get by if indeed cutting sports isn't an option. So I'm almost bracing for impact, and not just with the staff reductions, but everything that the that the athletic department has to do to make it work financially for as long as it's going to cripple them.
One other note or two from his meeting with the Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star today. He said he expects the NCAA to have a strong, workable plan for men's and women's basketball this winter. The season is set to begin in early November, with practice beginning late September, although reports have suggested that the start of the season could be moved back for a bubble-type environment between Thanksgiving and January. Moose's quote was, "That's where their revenue comes from. They had no March Madness last year, and the NCAA needs to pay their bills and to pay us. So it makes sense on the basketball side, and they've got a little bit more breathing room, not a lot. How it's going to shape up or look is still to be decided." He also mentioned, Ben, they obviously are in a hiring freeze, and he says, despite that, we are hiring 2 more sports psychologists to help our student athletes through this rough time, particularly the ones in the fall that have had their seasons canceled. So he says we are adding 2 psychologists to our staff, even while we're looking at a staff reduction in other areas. A fascinating read again at both the Lincoln Journal-Star and the Omaha World Herald have stories posted now from their sit-down with Bill Moose from earlier today. All right, busy show tonight. Teddy Greenstein's going to be here in just a couple of minutes. He had a chance to talk one-on-one with Kevin Warren, the Big Ten's commissioner. We'll hear what his thoughts were about that conversation and more with Teddy coming up in a few minutes. In hour number 2, our Husker Sports podcast department dropped a new one today, the Osborne Option. We're going to talk about that, play a snippet for you. It's a terrific look back at Coach Osborne's offense and how it changed and was tweaked from decade to decade. Some terrific guests on there, including Turner Gill, our own Steve Taylor, some clips from Scott Frost, and obviously Coach Osborne, a big part of that as well. We'll play a snippet of that for you in hour number 2. We'll have our Beyond the Headlines segment tonight also in the second hour. Our Face-Off coming your way in hour number 3, and we'll also hear from, and this has been asked for by a lot of you, we'll also hear from a gentleman from UNMC to get his thoughts about this virus and some of the science behind some of these decisions that are getting made. So a full show headed your way tonight here on Sports Sunday. Phone lines are also available to you at 531-500-4686. That also doubles up as our U.S. Cellular text line. U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of Husker Athletics. Again, the number 531-500-4686 if you want to be a part of the program. We're back with Teddy coming up next. Here on the Husker Sports Network, and every Thursday we get a chance to chat with Teddy Greenstein from Chicago.
He's originally from New York, but now calls the second city his home. He prefers seeing a yellow card over an icing call. His choice in pizza is still up for debate, but his knowledge of sports spans from boxing to yachting. Here's the worldly Teddy Greenstein of the Chicago Tribune.
Hello there. Anything busy? Are you keeping busy? Anything happening in your world at all?
I took the day off today, man. I played some golf. I played at Bobolink, which is Mike Ditka's home course. Played with the Northwestern golf coach, who obviously was just crushing my game. So Thursday seems to be my golf day of late. You know, it worked out last night because obviously the open letter came down from Kevin Warren. We'd been waiting and waiting and waiting. I mean, over a week. What's taken so long to write that letter? So I think it answered some questions, but I think a lot of people still feel like it fell short.
You had a chance to talk to the commissioner. What impressions did he leave you with?
You know, he certainly felt bad about his interview with Dave Revson. He certainly felt like he didn't give enough information, and he fell on his sword for that one. But he also felt like he was surprised with some of the criticism because he said, hey, when you're taking the side of, student health, safety, and well-being, why are you going to get such criticism? Well, the answer is because you didn't explain it well, and 3 of the Power 5 leagues are still playing, and Nebraska certainly wanted to play. And in the state of Ohio, high school football is playing. Cincinnati, I believe, Cincinnati. So it's like all these schools are playing, but Ohio State is not. So there are all these contradictions. Also, people find a contradiction with the fact that his son Powers is a tight end in Mississippi State and plans on playing. Now, that one I really understand, because it's one thing for Kevin to be advising the Big Ten, by saying, hey, we bear financial liability here, and we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we can't take these chances. He really can't pull his adult son off the football field. Maybe he's tried, so I don't find that to be a contradiction. But I certainly understand all the people who say, wait a second, at Iowa, why can't we play if Iowa State is playing? Why can't we play at Purdue if Notre Dame is playing? Although Notre Dame has paused practices. So I think ultimately all these other leagues will get to where the Big Ten is now, but at least they're trying, and that's the part that obviously rankles a lot of Big Ten people.
He did say that he's had a lot of family discussions with his son, and I think
Yes.
you're going to attend the parent rally that's going to be taking place at the Big Ten headquarters tomorrow. Those parents would say, well, you've taken that opportunity for me to have that kind of discussion with my student athlete. You've taken away my ability to have that conversation that you've had with your son.
That's an indisputable point. That's a great point. I've been talking a lot with Randy Wade, father of Sean Wade. Sean Wade is a potential top 10 pick in the NFL draft. He's a cornerback from Ohio State, Greg, as you know. Look, obviously Sean wants to play this fall. I don't think he wants to play some January season that they're concocting or some spring season that probably also isn't going to happen. And that's right. Those players don't have the option that Powers Warren has. So I understand that they're upset. But at this point, I kind of feel like it's pointless because Kevin Warren says this decision will not be revisited. There was just such poor messaging around the decision. And then you've got Sandy Barber at Penn State saying, I don't even know if there was a vote. They really needed to get their ducks in a line. And I think some of it spoke to Kevin Warren's inexperience, maybe the fact that he's such a quote unquote nice guy. He didn't sort of put the hammer down and say, this is the deal. I don't care if anybody's complaining about it. This is the final decision. He probably needed to be more forceful last week when he announced it.
Matt, will he address the fans or the parents tomorrow, do you think?
He will not. I asked him that, and he's like, our office has been closed since March. He works out of his apartment in downtown Chicago, and that is certainly not going to change tomorrow. I mean, he could theoretically show up, but I think it's unlikely. Randy Wade says, hey, we're at your front door. Why don't you talk to us? They make a good argument, talk to the parents, explain it to them. I think Kevin feels like he's now explained it twice, and the first one didn't go well. The second one went okay, and that's probably all he owes them. And, look, he looks at Notre Dame, North Carolina, and Michigan State. Michigan State, as you know, Greg, is shut down. They're just going to have all virtual learning. Carolina's had an outbreak. I think they sent everyone home. Notre Dame is in a pause 2 weeks now where it's only online classes, and they've suspended football. So I think he looks at those programs and says, this is what I was talking about. I know you don't like this decision, but this was the prudent decision.
You alluded to the winter plan earlier. What kind of legs do you think that has to play in dome stadiums after the first of the year?
I just don't think it makes any sense. I don't think it makes any sense to say it's too dangerous to play in November, but we're going to have a January season indoors. Look, I mean, if they want to try to play a half dozen games in March and April after we hopefully have a vaccine, and if they want to call that the first half of the 2021 season, and then you maybe play another 10 games in the fall, I can see where that's viable, although I probably wouldn't be in favor of it. I mean, I kind of feel like Nick Saban does, where it's going to be like JV teams, where is it fair if Ohio State doesn't have its top 15 players? I mean, I have a lot of Northwestern fans who are saying this is great. We finally have an advantage. We only have 2 pro prospects. This could work out better. So I have my strong doubts that any of it will fly, but January to me doesn't really make much sense.
And I think one of the Northwestern, the Slater kid has announced he's opting out. He's just going to get ready for the NFL draft, and I think he won't be alone around the league. Again, visiting with Teddy Greenside of the Chicago Tribune. Well, you're crossing some teams off there in Chicago. The Bulls are done. They're making a coaching change. The Blackhawks have been eliminated. Kind of getting rid of some of those winter sports now, aren't you?
I am. We are. But baseball's looking good, as you see. I mean, the White Sox have won, I think, 4 straight.
Yep.
Cubs had a little stumble. I covered their game last Friday. Ever since then, they were having a hard time, but now they've come back a little bit. Craig Kimball's pitching well, and obviously you don't have to have a great one-loss record this year to make the playoffs. So this will be really fun for a lot of folks if the Cubs and White Sox both make the playoffs. They have the talent to do it. They're in position to get it done. Obviously, baseball has had this problem now where, outbreaks with 3 of the teams, but they keep soldiering on. And look, I don't know if you saw my story about college basketball today. That looks promising. I talked to 4 Big Ten coaches. They all feel like college basketball is going to happen. So hopefully we'll have some games to watch starting over Thanksgiving.
Fred Hoiberg might have been one of the ones that you talked to. I wonder if he's been keeping an eye on the Bulls situation and the opening they have now. Was that expected to make the move for the Bulls?
It's been long expected. I mean, Jim Boylan is a nice guy, but probably over his head. I don't think the players had a tremendous amount of respect for him. He lost the fan base about 48 hours after getting the job. He seemed more like a high school coach to some, like he would have them, doing calisthenics and jumping jacks, and didn't exactly acquit himself as a veteran NBA coach. Fred Hoiberg, meanwhile, I'm telling you, I don't know if we've talked about this. That guy will be a successful NBA coach one day. Hopefully he does great at Nebraska and he gets a good roster, the kind of roster he didn't get with the Bulls. I absolutely believe he'll be a good NBA coach one day, but he is focused on college and he is bullish on this season. One thing he's pointed out to me is, in Lancaster County, there's been more deaths from the flu than COVID. So Nebraska's in a good spot. I believe he mentioned that all but one player are living in the same kind of like apartment complex. So I think he's got a good feel for that. And I think these guys need to start playing over Thanksgiving break when campuses will be empty. It can basically form a natural bubble, play a bunch of games then, go till mid-January, and then, hopefully by then we'll have a vaccine.
No doubt. All right, you're on the golf course today. Are you going to be on the golf course covering an event next week? The FedEx Cup is underway. They're in Boston this week, coming your way next week.
Yeah, I'll be teaching Bryson a thing or two about how to hit a long drive. They will be down at Olympia Fields. It's the top 70 on the PGA Tour, and it's going to be a fascinating event. I mean, I have a media credential. I think there'll only be, 70 or 80 people on the golf course. I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be obviously strange with no fans, but the access to the players and hopefully getting close and talking to their caddies and all that is going to be unique. I hope to have that experience again at the Masters, but one thing at a time. So, I'll be out there Thursday through Sunday. Obviously, the first FedEx Cup event is this weekend in Boston, and then they'll trim it down and have the top 70 going to Chicago, or actually, 45 minutes south of Chicago.
You've been a part of that world a lot in your career. Are you surprised they've had the kind of success coming out of this COVID as they've had?
I would say I'm not surprised, because we probably talked about this in April and May, that golf is kind of the perfect COVID sport. Nobody has to touch anybody. Now people touch the flagstick somewhat, and some courses have rakes, but in those early days, you did not have to get within 6 feet of anybody. And, I think we've all seen those little foam containers in the holes. It lends itself beautifully for it. The thing is, golfers are going to behave themselves, because if they get ill, they can't play and they can't make any money. There are no guaranteed contracts on the PGA Tour. I mean, there's certainly some endorsement deals, but they must take care of themselves and stay COVID-free to be able to play tournaments and make money. So, of course, they're gonna follow the rules.
No doubt. All right, go get you a cold one. We'll talk to you next week. Welcome back, Sports Nightly Thursday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you. 531-500-4686, the number if you want to dot us up with a comment or question. Let's go to Omaha. Jason, you're up next. Welcome to the program.
Hi. So I was just thinking about, the TV ratings, comments you made earlier, and how, starting up after the Super Bowl would be like the XFL. I just think there's a major difference in that, I don't even know any XFL teams, and you have college fan bases. They're huge. I mean, I don't think it's going to be comparable. The other comment I had was about practice.
Well, let me just ask you this, Jason. If you're a fan of Alabama and the Crimson Tide play their season and are done, are they going to kick back on a Saturday and watch Ohio State play?
I mean, Possibly. I mean, I think football carries quite a bit of weight, compared to other sports. College football being the most popular or second most popular viewed sport in the country. I mean, Alabama might not tune in because their season's over. But, I still think you have huge quantities of people that are very interested.
Will you watch college football this fall?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
To some degree. I mean, I went to Iowa State, so I'll
oh, well, yeah. Heck yeah, they're playing. Yeah, they're playing. But, so your team's a go, so you'll be watching, sure.
Well, I'm a Husker fan, though, so I go a little bit of both. But, yeah, I mean, I would tune into both of them, especially just because how local and high interest it is.
Okay.
But my other comment is I know that there's a lot of people that, they're talking about the difficulties and, the wear and tear and the scheduling, a spring season. But what about, if, these other conferences, have a go or a partial season, and, what about missing a full season of playing or, practicing against your own team? And we always talk about missing 15 games or 15 practices, because we haven't made a bowl game for a few years. What about a season? I guess that's just wait to hear your comments.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jason. Thanks for holding on. You're really patient. I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, Nebraska does feel like they're behind a little bit. They haven't been bowl games, so they haven't had bowl practices. They only got 2 of their spring practices in. So, for the next 6 weeks, they can practice up to 12 hours with this football team. So, in essence, this is kind of like a spring football practice for them. You're right. I mean, that there are benefits to playing and getting games and getting game reps in, even if it's in January or February. That's a fair point, Ben, that he brings up, that if you just kick it away and don't do something in January, February, or March, you're missing out on an opportunity to make yourself better.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point, and it's like, which way do you go? Is it too much or is it not enough? So. Yeah, it's a very, very good observation on his end. And, I think as a coach, you probably prefer the too much aspect. You don't want to feel ill-prepared or, like you're not getting enough reps. I mean, how empty of a feeling was that in the spring when Nebraska only had, just a couple of practices? So, yeah, it's a good observation for sure.
All right, let's stay in Omaha. Sean, you're up next on Sports Sunday. Good evening.
All right, good evening. I think the kids, well, they're not kids, they're young adults that are playing football. They can use this to their benefit. The guys from the Big 10 and Big 12, they can prove that they are in control. They can refuse to play in the spring. Nothing's changed. Because I doubt if the virus is gone by then when they want to start in January. They can just opt out. Financial makes people make decisions. Use it against them. I mean, the high school kids should do the same. They should opt out for a year, just dropped out, and get a year older and play, just like they do in Texas. If you're a good kid in the 8th or 9th grade in Texas, and they have you basically flunk a year if you're young enough so you can play an extra year. They can use this all to their advantage.
I appreciate the call, Sean. Definitely a different perspective. I think that most of these young men just want to play so bad that they'll play whenever they can. I feel like, especially in a place like Nebraska, when it's already been 8 months since they've gotten to play, I don't feel like their pride or their grudge would outweigh their desire to play football. I don't see that happening, especially those. The seniors and even the freshmen, Greg, who are eager to put on a college helmet for the first time. I don't see ego, pride, or holding a grudge outweighing the fact that they want to play football.
On our text line, Levon in North Platte says, frustrating that nobody's talking Husker baseball. If football and volleyball and basketball are all playing in the spring, will we get to hear any baseball over the radio? We'll squeeze games in, right?
I sure hope so.
If they play, we certainly hope they play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've completely ignored baseball. I think we've talked a lot about how much we miss it and miss the fact that we weren't able to call games. I know we've been in touch with some of the players, and you got in touch with Coach Bolt the other day. So, I've exchanged texts back and forth with Coach Christie a few times. I just think that it's it's important that they do what's in their best interest as well, and I hope that's play games, and I hope we're sitting there watching it. In warmer climates, hopefully in February. I hope they allow this, the schedule to stand as it is, and get to see this team go compete. I know a lot of those boys are just finishing up their summers, and we're kind of reporting back to campuses. A lot of those leagues are all finished up, and some of them had some really good summers. So they've been out playing ball and getting better and getting those crucial ABs and innings on the mound that they weren't able to get in the spring.
Better be back. School started Monday. Better be back on campus here. Let's go to Shelby, Nebraska. Chuck, you're up next on Sports Alley. Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, I'm out in Shelton, Nebraska, but I was just wondering, what kind of overall, even long-term effect this is going to have on recruiting for football. And not playing this fall, not being able to bring kids out on campus, and then, if we play in January, February, how's that going to affect us being able to get out and talk to those new guys to come up and fill in over the years? So I'm just curious what thoughts were on that.
It's going to have a long-term effect on recruiting. There's no doubt. I mean, unless it somehow becomes an even playing field by these other three leagues not playing, there's going to be uneven ground and negative recruiting going on towards the Big Ten and the Pac-12. Just the way that it is. Fair or not, like it or not, it's a cutthroat world, recruiting, and any avenue, anything that you can say or do to get a kid on your side will be said and done. So, it is going to have an effect on recruiting. I don't know how much, the effect on recruiting, as you were saying about when the season is. I don't know that will matter a whole lot because – the coaches will be recruiting in the fall when they're not playing, or if they're playing in, January or February, then you're still going to be tied up playing. So I don't know. I don't really see the timing of it being a huge issue. It's just the act of recruiting itself may become more difficult.
Chuck, appreciate the call. Let's go to West Point and Pete. Good evening, Pete. Welcome to Sports Alley.
How you doing?
Good, Pete. How you doing?
Pretty good. I guess one of the things I'm going to bring up that bother me a little bit, I hear the Big Ten commissioner talk about the effects of COVID and the health issues, but I really don't hear anybody talking about the health issues if they don't play football, the suicide rates, the drug use, and on and on. There's a lot of health effects that's going to happen because of no football, and that doesn't seem to ever be addressed much. But I do know if you listen to the athletic director, they're bringing in 2 more psychologists. There's a reason for that, and nobody ever hits that angle of it. What's the effects of not playing as far as the health?
It's a great point, Pete, and I can't remember where I saw this, but there have been athletes that have already threatened to take their own life because of the coronavirus, and not just athletes, but people in general. All of our worlds have been turned upside down with this thing, and depending on how stable your life was before this, it affects everybody differently, and especially young people still maturing and developing and figuring out what this world is like on your own. And I think, Greg, arguably the worst age in terms of mental health is probably college kids, because a lot of these guys are away from home. They're learning how to be an adult, and even the athletes, they've got pressure of performing. They've got all this stuff that are affecting them, and then all of a sudden this virus happens. Their worlds are turned upside down, and a lot of them, you take away the thing that they're most passionate about, which is sports, and there's no question that it is a big issue and something that you need to stay on top of, which is why I commend, again, the Nebraska Athletic Department for taking the initiative to do everything they can to help these young people and making sure that they're in a good headspace, because it sucks that some of us adults are losing jobs, and I'm not trying to downplay that at all, but you wonder what the support system of some of these college athletes or whoever what they're dealing with. But yeah, it's a good observation, Pete.
There was a staggering set of numbers released by the CDC last night that said from people in this country between the ages of 16 and 24 for the last 4 months, 1 in 6 they estimate have thought about taking their life. That just knocks you on your butt to hear that. And, you're absolutely right, and Nebraska feels it. This is a tough time for a lot of these young people. And I read this the other day from a former Nebraska psychologist, Dr. Larry Weidman, who said, like most, I'm not privy to the medical information that led to this decision to stop fall sports. From my area of expertise, which again is mental health, I've never seen this level of mental and psychological distress before in high school and college student athletes. It's real, and I'm not sure the powers fully understand this. Pete, I'm glad you brought it up, because that absolutely has not been talked enough about, and that has to be added into that whole thing about the benefit and the health and wellness of our student athletes. Mental health, to me, is the by far bigger thing that should be concerning us than it really is a virus. To that age group right now, mental health is a bigger threat to them than COVID-19 is, and it has not been talked about much at all. Great call. 531-500-4686. Back with more of your calls next. Sports Nightly, Thursday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin. 531-500-4686. Back to the phones we go to Omaha and Jeff. Good evening, Jeff.
Hey, fellas. How you doing?
Good, Jeff. How you doing?
I got one serious issue that I'm surprised hasn't been brought up more often. When this commissioner says it's about player safety, he's lying. Because if he really cared about player safety in the college football, Big Ten football, he'd ban football to begin with. I mean, it's a very violent sport. And you got a better chance of getting a serious injury with long-term effects playing college Division I Big Ten football than you do getting COVID-19 and dying from it. It's not about safety. It's not true. It's not.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comment. We've actually had a few people that have brought that up about player safety and the more so the liability aspect of it. And I think there's truth to both sides. I do think that, powers that be are responsible for dozens, hundreds, thousands of people who it kind of falls under your watch. You're kidding yourself if the liability factor isn't a factor, because it would be for all of us. If I was in charge of today, if you put me in charge of 10 or more people, and you say if someone gets it and they say they got it from work, of course. Liability is 100% on people's minds and on the powers' minds when they're making these decisions. You're kidding yourself if you think otherwise.
It is a very violent sport. There's a reason there are ambulances at every football game, high school, college. It is a violent sport. Those kids take risk every time they step out on the football field. That's why you have prayers before games. Keep our players safe. Got about a minute left in the hour. Mike in Omaha will plug you in here. Got about a minute left. Go.
Okay. Hey, listen, not meeting with those parents, that's outrageous, man. Inexcusable. But I really enjoyed Ronnie Green's interview, and I really liked the guy. And there was more information there. And I don't think he mentioned the commissioner once. I could be wrong. It was the deans and presidents that made the decision. He's the spokesperson. But here's the irony. We got the ability now to test so much better than before. And that's the answer, to get quick test results and be able to do it cheaply and often. Did you hear what he said about October? Maybe an October surprise. So I'm keeping my hope up.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. I don't think there's going to be any football. I think the October surprise, I think they're all hoping the vaccine's ready. You're right about testing. Some of the area hospitals are talking about they've now got a much less invasive test where they don't have to jam it clear up into your brain. They got to go about an inch inside your nose, and they can turn around results in 15 minutes. That's now available at some of the local hospitals. So we've made great strides, and we'll continue to make great strides, I think. I have a lot of faith in our health community. Our Sports Nightly Hotline brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. More of your calls, and we'll also let you hear a snippet of our new podcast that dropped today. Oh, it's exciting. We'll be back with that next. Here we are, Thursday night, Sports Sunday on the Husker Sports Network. Hope you had a good day today. Thank you so much for spending some of your Thursday evening with us. Here are the numbers if you want to be a part of the program, 531-500-4686. You can also text us at that very same number, 531-500-4686. That is our U.S. Cellular text line. U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of Husker Athletics. Exciting day for us today, Ben, is the new Husker Sports Network original podcast, Osborne and the Option, dropped today wherever you find podcasts. This is an incredible look back at Tom Osborne's offensive scheme from his early days as the OC under Bob Devaney to becoming the head coach, the transformation of the offense from more of a drop-back passer to the option offense. And we span a couple of different eras with interviews within it. I know you've given it a listen. Let the folks know your thoughts about this.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. And anytime, of course, you talk about TO or the option or the scoring explosion in the 80s or, of course, the glory years in the 90s, it gets people's attention. But I don't think anything like this has been done, or if it has, I'm not aware of it, where it's a full investigation inside the mind of Tom Osborne when it came to where the option came from, how he installed it, how he learned it, how it progressed, how it developed over the years, how he recruited to it, and how it won him national championships. And so a lot of hard work went into this. Obviously, Josh, Austin, Tim did a great job, and you voiced it as well. And we also have to give a ton of credit to Nate Rohr, who unfortunately isn't with us anymore. Nate put his blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, and there was a lot of effort by a lot of people to get this thing done, and it turned out fantastic. I think the fans are really going to enjoy it. It's an hour long, but it sure doesn't feel that way. I mean, when you're listening to it, you're kind of sucked in, and if you're a fan of those ESPN documentaries that kind of take deep dives into things, these Husker Sports originals that we've put out already, and this one's no different, it's well worth your time. They really do turn out great once they're all edited together and the final product's done. But there's everything in here. I mean, stories about how T.O. first got into football to, learning from Coach Devaney, how he got the head job, where the option came from, and, of course, hearing from guys like Turner Gill and our own Steve Taylor, who played quarterback in that system, and, hearing some clips from Coach Frost as well. Just kind of hearing it all put together is pretty fantastic stuff. So I'm really happy and proud of the guys for the effort they put together.
As Ben mentioned, it's about an hour long, but we've pulled a snippet for you to kind of just whet your appetite. Enjoy this.
In the month of March, when recruiting was over, we look at a lot of teams, some of the best football teams in the country that preceding year and what they were doing. And sometimes we'd even look at NFL films, and sometimes we look at high school films. Some plays that we got were off of high school films, and so we plagiarized and copied, and they don't sue you when you do that in athletics. You can do that. And sometimes we came up with stuff that we thought of ourselves, and everybody was involved. Milt Teneper and Frank Solich and Ron Brown later on, Turner Gill, and everybody had input. And sometimes a head coach will stifle creativity on the part of their staff and shut people down and say, well, that's a bad idea, and pretty soon nobody will speak up. And so we try to listen to everybody.
The Bouncer-Rooski was another one of the trick plays in Osborne's arsenal.
Huskers in the eye, and Gill wants to throw it. He throws it on the ground out there to Fryer, and Fryer throws complete upfield down to the 15, to the 14, and it's first down at the 14, and he threw a bouncer over there, a lateral pass. Turner Gill bounced it out to Irving Fryer, and Fryer hit Mitch Frink on the pass. The big tight end from Nebraska City took it to the 14. Well, we've heard of that play. They throw a lateral pass, and it bounces on the ground, picked up over there by Fryer, and Fryer hits Frink, the tight end, downfield to the 14-yard line.
that was part of the, I guess, our everyday drills that I was always doing on the side and trying to get that done. So it came fairly easy. I think a little of it had to do with the football part of it, but also the baseball part of it a little bit in me to being able to do things. Because playing sometimes a shortstop, I know the ball's a little different, but you had to kind of hit it there where it's going to come up in the right way. And so it worked out. Again, I'm going to say, 98% of the time in practice, it was pretty much done pretty well there. So excited about that play. I'm glad it worked. And obviously it's one of those plays. Again, I think that's the brilliant mind of Coach Osborne. I'm saying, yeah, you say he ran the ball. But again, he had some uniqueness about him and scheme-wise. Again, that's a scheme play. Again, you can call it trick play, whatever, yeah, and all that. But it's brilliance to be able to attack the defense.
Not long after Gill graduated, another perfect fit for Osborne's option attack arrived on campus out of Fresno, California. Steve Taylor.
Second down and long. Brinson in motion, left to right, out of the slot. And it's an option play or bootleg play. It's Taylor running the ball 40, 45, 50. Has a block, 45, 40, 35, 30. Taylor's going to go all the way. Another one. Touchdown. Steve Taylor.
First and 10. Taylor again, wide open. Milliken, his second of the game. 5 for Steve Taylor. That is a new Nebraska record.
It was just fun. It was fun. It was innovative. Watching them run the option the way they did it, because it wasn't your typical wishbone triple option, but you had many different versions of that out of the eye. And I was just captivated by what they were doing. I was watching. I watched the 83-84 Orange Bowl with Turner Gill, Mike was there, and Irving Fryer, and that great offensive line. So as a quarterback, for my skills, I thought it'd be great. I wish we would have thrown the ball more, but we didn't. But you were able to run the football and feature your running abilities, and if you can throw it, you can throw it too. So it was just fun. It was innovative, and it was just dynamic to watch.
Steve Taylor looks at a 5-man Cowboy front, takes the snap, hands it off to Clark, cuts back left side, 30, 32, 33, 35, broke it, out across the 40, 45, he may go, 50, 45, 40, first place from scrimmage, 25, 20, 15, 10, touchdown! 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 Holy cow, unbelievable, the first play from scrimmage. Third down, Nebraska with Clark in motion out of the power set, bootleg right, run pass option, Taylor throws, touchdown to Milliken, touchdown! They crush you up so many different ways. The Cornhuskers do under the direction of Dr. Tom Osborne. What a genius he is. In terms of offense in the college game, he has that defense spinning like a top, and he did that trip because he sent Oklahoma State off to its right side with most of the motion. Kenny Clark went out that way, and then it was a bootleg to the right side. And all of a sudden, as a defensive back, you just don't know which way to go.
Ironically enough, the offense was hugely sophisticated in its own self, because the passing game wasn't your traditional passing game. Then your option game wasn't your regular option game. And then the numerical system was totally backwards. From Pop Warner up to, high school, you go 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 are your gaps and your holes. Where Nebraska system was 1 starting at the right and working your way to the left, 9. So I remember my freshman year, I went the wrong way half the times because of the system and the way it was. So that took a while to get accustomed to. But, it was intimidating. I mean, there was a lot of offense. The playbook was pretty big. And obviously the quarterback, you have to learn so much with the running game and also the passing game and everything. So, but you knew you had your work cut out for you, and it was going to take more than just being a great athlete to really be successful.
I don't think that people realize that there were changes being made every year. Couple different plays here and there, different line calls, different pass patterns. So it wasn't like we were just totally static. But we did believe in what we were doing. We felt that I always try to look at our offense from the eyes of a defensive coordinator. What would give me the most trouble stopping a team? And I knew that if we had a pure drop-back thrower, we always felt pretty comfortable on defense because we could come after that guy. And there wasn't much he could do about it if we got a good pass rush. And so we didn't want the one-dimensional quarterback.
There's a snippet for you of, again, our new Husker Sports Network originals, Osborne and the Option. It dropped today where you find podcasts. If you can't find that, you want to get a link off of our Twitter account at Husker Sports. We've got the link there to pull that up and listen to it. A full hour I think people are going to love this one. Ben, they may listen to it multiple times just to go back and hear some of the old grade highlights and hear Coach lay out some of that and hear from Turner and Steve, and Scott Frost is in there as well. It's just a great, great listen.
Yeah, some terrific stories in there, from all eras, all times. And, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. And, yeah, just to relive those days while you can, and to hear it from Tom too, to hear it from Coach Osmer is just, it's a great thing, and it's well worth your time. So find an hour and go check it out, because it's worth it. You won't be disappointed you did.
Great work by our team as well, as you mentioned earlier, putting that thing together. It is a terrific listen and highly recommended. Hey, our Sports Nightly Hotline brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Back with our Beyond the Headlines for the day. Next. Welcome back, Sports Nightly Thursday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin here, back in our studios. Tim Curran and Austin Orman. And time for tonight's edition of Beyond the Headlines, boys.
That's right. We're going to kick it off here with a good one. Reds pitcher Trevor Bauer has been warned by Major League Baseball that he'll face disciplinary action if he wears his custom-made Free Joe Kelly cleats he shared images of on social media. The cleats say, of course, Free Joe Kelly, and feature a pouty-faced image of the Dodgers pitcher as well. Kelly, you remember, was given an 8-game ban for intentionally throwing at a couple of Astros. So whose side are you on here, Bauer's or the MLB?
Just an absolutely epic troll job by Trevor Bauer. He is not a I don't even know how to put this, a fan of the leadership of Major League Baseball at all. He's going to wear them. I mean, it's probably going to be, a fine? I would imagine some kind of fine would be what he would bear. But, yeah, I saw a photo of those cleats on Twitter. I thought they were pretty epic. And, yeah, I look forward to him displaying those on the diamond. And, boy, has he been unbelievable this year. He leads the majors in ERA, 2-hit shutout yesterday of the Royals. He is just absolutely dominant right now in Major League Baseball.
You know, he likes to push the envelope, and he is citing a Major League Baseball policy that was put out before they restarted the season, allowing guys some freedom to do some things, I think, to talk about social injustice. Well, he believes this is an injustice to Joe Kelly, and so he's like, okay, but so that kind of injustice is okay, but I can't support a fellow player who I believe is being punished improperly. Fair point. Did you guys see last night? He had last year in an appearance when he was with Cleveland in Kansas City. He threw the ball over the center field wall. Remember that? Everybody remember that?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, last night, so he finishes off his complete game shutout last night in Kansas City, and he's unbuttoning his shirt. And it has something about it. It's related to him throwing the ball over the wall from last year. And I was trying to find it on Twitter what it said as he pulled the shirt off.
I think it said send it. I think
send it. Yeah. So it was in relation to him throwing the ball over the wall last year in Kansas City. So that's the kind of guy he is. I'm on Team Bauer. I think I like his free spirit that he has.
He is definitely not afraid to rock the boat in any sense. So, yeah, do you, buddy, especially when you're pitching the way that you are. Shoot, go for it. Slugger, the Kansas City mascot, had a pretty epic sign out in center field, too. I can't remember what it said, but it said something like Bauer target or something like that. And he was holding it up in center field while he was pitching. But we know who got the last laugh yesterday.
He was awesome.
Ben, how does it make you feel that Trevor Bauer treated the Outlaw season like a warm-up season?
He was like Jekyll and Hyde in SNBL. There were some days where he was so good, and then other days where it was just I couldn't even watch it. I had to just turn it off.
All right, well, we'll stick with apparel and uniforms for topic number 2. So just yesterday, LeBron James shared an image of himself in the uniforms for the Toon Squad, the new jerseys for the upcoming Space Jam sequel. What are your guys' thoughts on these new jerseys?
Yeah. They don't move me one way or the other. I will go see the movie, I think. I'll probably go take that in when it comes out. But you guys know I'm not the most avid uniform cop or fashion expert.
I'm pretty indifferent, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of people wanted to hate it and bash it. I'm not that strict on it. I'm not that, against it. But I don't know. I didn't want them to remake Space Jam in the first place, but I guess we'll see. I mean, the Monstars were pretty deflated after the first one. They were quick to jump ship over to the Toon Squad team and trying to, prove to Bugs Bunny that they were worth spots on their roster. So I don't know how this is going to work.
I mean,
out.
No matter how ugly the uniforms may or may not be, they can't be more egregious than Hollywood's tendency to just reboot crap that's 20 years old and just try. I mean, look at what Disney Plus did with Mulan. They rebooted Mulan. They throw it on Disney Plus for a $30 rental. A rental. You can't even buy it. It's $30 to rent. It's like this is just getting out of hand with all this stuff. Which brings me on to topic number 3. ESPN's come out with a list of college football teams that Pac-12 and Big Ten fans should root for this season, assuming, of course, that they can actually pull that thing off in the fall. ESPN picked Iowa State as a team Cornhusker fans should be pulling for this fall. Do you guys buy the Husker fans should pick the Cyclones, or do you guys think there's another team out there on your guys' radar that you'll cheer for?
Yeah, I don't think you can go get one of your old rivals. I don't think you can do that. Now, we had a caller in the first hour that talked about he went to Iowa State but roots for Nebraska. If I'm going to pick somebody, it's probably going to be somebody on one of the coasts or down south in the ACC or something like that I might go be a mini fan of. But I'm not picking one of Nebraska's old rivals. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I can't see how anybody in the Big 12 would be somebody that Nebraska would root for. I'm with Greg. It's probably most likely a team in the ACC or someone in the SEC that could take down Bama or LSU or even Florida for that matter. So I've always kind of been a closet Bulldog fan, so I'll be Team Georgia this year.
Oh, see, I thought maybe you go Mississippi State. I thought that may be your team now.
Nope.
How about you
Pirate's
two guys?
An interesting guy and all that, but
you rode the FAU train with Lane Kiffin a couple of years ago.
You did.
On the Ole Miss bandwagon.
That train got derailed. I don't think that train ever left the station.
How do you two feel about that?
Well, see, my sister actually did go to Iowa State, so that'd be one potential. I mean, I'm not a Cyclones fan by any stretch, but I could see it. I don't know. At least with the Big 12, you have some. I don't know. You have an old conference sense for the Big 12, so I'd make me more inclined to pay attention to the Big 12 than just pick some random ACC team or even gross. Georgia. I don't know where you're getting that from, Ben. I don't like that at all.
What do you got against Georgia? What have they ever done to anybody?
Well, Nebraska played them back in 2014.
Nebraska's played a heck of a lot of teams. Tim.
The grudge is still out, Ben. Come on, I think you of all people should understand grudges are okay to hold.
We beat them, Tim.
We beat them the last time we played them.
We were 1-1 against.
No, I thought it was 1-1. I'm still holding on to that loss. So it's just
Iowa State beat Nebraska 9-6. We turned the ball over 7 times. You tell me which one's worse.
I'm triggered now that you brought that up. But I think Nebraska's also steamrolled Iowa State enough for that one to not hurt as much. But there you go.
I have thought about this a lot. Will Husker fans adopt somebody for the year? I don't know. Probably not. But if you're going to watch some games, maybe you get pulled into somebody. Maybe that's a Twitter poll, not tonight necessarily, but at some point in time, if we get closer and it looks like somebody's going to play games, maybe we open that up as a Twitter poll at some point in time.
Good point.
Austin, are you in on anybody?
I did do a little bit of stumping for Iowa State in our preseason top 25 meeting.
You did.
I think we maybe owe them a little bit of a thank you for Fred Hoiberg to an extent. The one that really grinds my gears is Sporting News said Nebraska should cheer for Missouri, which I don't see that ever happening, not ever. So, I'm just going to watch college football for what it is. I'm not going to, root for one team or another. I'll just watch the college football that's on, I guess.
I would rather root for a tie than root for Missouri.
My sentiment, exactly. Well, we're going to go off the rails here with topic number 4. So earlier this morning, the Nebraska State Patrol reported that a tank was left unattended by the Overton on-ramp near mile marker at 257 on I-80.
I knew I forgot something.
Supposedly, this tank was left there by a driver contracted to haul it back to South Dakota as it belongs to the South Dakota National Guard's Engineer Company. So what would it take for you guys to leave a tank unattended, and would you have tried to drive off in it had you known about this before now?
I don't know that I know how to drive a tank, to be honest with you.
How funny is that? That people are driving by and go, "That's a tank sitting right there." I mean, yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear the story of why the guy left it. I mean, obviously he had a vehicle breakdown or something that he had to go.
Then he just unhooked it. I mean,
yeah, and then just left. It's just gone, just up and left.
I would think the treads on a tank would just absolutely destroy a highway. Like, I can't imagine that would go very well. But
I mean, they're built to go on anything. So I mean,
I know, but I think the road would be destroyed.
Could be a little bit. Wouldn't that be funny? Tootling down somebody's street in that thing. Hey guys.
Yeah, driving a tank around.
Standing out the top of it.
I can't imagine it was too difficult to hunt down whose tank it was. Like,
it is
I
pretty
can't imagine there's very many of those
outside.
registered in the state of Nebraska.
How far do you think you guys could drive a tank?
I don't know. I don't know that I would know how to operate it. I might have trouble getting it started, if I'm being honest.
All right. Well, with that, we got to move on to our next topic. One of you guys' beloved Kansas City Chiefs, Bashaud Breeland, got slapped with a 4-game suspension, but interestingly enough, he took to Instagram to apologize, which isn't abnormal, but he did opt to use one of his old rap videos as part of his apology, working in his side hustle of his. Do you guys approve of that kind of mea culpa tactic, using your rap game to help apologize for your actions, or was that a little bit out there for you guys?
It's creative.
And that is one thing.
He put out more of an apology in a rap video than the entire Houston Astros did, so I don't really see what the problem is.
There you go.
He put out a statement too. It's not like he just
did the rap.
Yeah, did a rap thing. He put out a statement and.
Now, pardon me, Ben. I didn't mean to mischaracterize Mr. Breeland's remarks.
I mean, I haven't heard an apology from TB12 about deflating footballs or getting caught on video.
That's because the NFL and Roger Goodell is corrupt. There's no apology needed.
Roger Goodell's corrupt. Pot meat kettle.
No, it was a natural process due to the cold climate. That's what I've been told, and that's what I'm sticking to.
Okay.
Austin, I think he's pretty creative. I mean, I give him props for being creative and kind of hanging a talent out there that may not be up to par. Some people maybe thought he's pretty good, but I give him props for hanging it out there like that.
One way to get remembered. Can't argue with that. All attention's good attention, right?
Yes.
All right, topic number 6. This is vaguely soccer related. I know Brett's not on this broadcast. We won't actually ask you a soccer question, but earlier today, French police in Marseille announced that they're banning citizens of the town from wearing PSG colors on Sunday, as PSG is in the Champions League final and Marseille is their rival. So which American towns do you guys think would be the first to ban their rivals' colors on game day if they could get away with it?
Yankees, Red Sox.
Yeah, that's pretty lethal there.
Could see even Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
Miami, Florida State, Auburn, Alabama.
Would
Yeah,
Nebraska
any of those
ever
really.
ban maroon?
It's so close to our scarlet. I mean, it's a slight tinge different, so I don't know that we really would apply to that. Maybe we'll get to the point where we ban black and gold with Iowa.
Possible.
What about like A&M, Texas? That comes to mind too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any of those really good rivalries, you could certainly see that happening.
Yeah. We close out with a good one, gentlemen. Hope you guys got a good response here.
We'll be the judge of that.
Cleveland Browns quarterback Kevin Johnson lacerated his liver in practice today after a teammate fell on him. So with that in mind, gentlemen, what's the worst injury you guys have ever sustained, sports-related or otherwise?
I mean, breaking a toe, getting a bottle at 4 a.m. is in the
most traumatic thing for Ben ever. I pole vaulted in high school. I broke my wrist. Pole vaulting.
What, on the up? Did you land on it funny, or was it just?
I was trying to get on a bigger pole, and then I wasn't going to get to the pit, and I came straight down in the box, head first. So I braced myself and broke my wrist.
Oh. Well, I think the real question, though, Greg, do you still break out the pole every once in a while, still trying your vaulted days over? Oh,
they're over.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
I would say breaking a bone in my back in high school was pretty rough.
That's a little bit more than the toe.
Let's see. I had a concussion. Got a concussion. That was pretty rough. Like, getting woken up every hour to make sure you don't get into a coma is no fun.
That doesn't sound like fun.
Those are the ones that kind of jump out.
How'd you get the concussion?
In recess, actually, we were playing basketball, and I went up for a layup, and some dude took my ankles out, and I landed right on my head.
Oh.
So
it's a brutal way. You guys playing prison rules basketball or something?
I don't know. Yep.
How about you two boys? Any injuries for Tim or Austin?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty soft individual, but the worst injury I ever got was when I was in I think 5th grade. Someone dropped a bike pole, and so that, what the like how where people park their bikes, there was at the elementary school there's construction going on, so they had a bunch of loose parts for this assembly of where you would park your bike, and so these kids were messing around, and they just dropped the pole straight on my foot. It just tore my foot wide open, and I had to get stitches in it. And that was pretty painful. I don't think I've never broken a bone, because even when I played sports, I mostly rode the bench, so I wasn't really in danger of putting my body in the line. But I think I rolled an ankle in like 8th grade football, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah, that foot getting gashed open was not a pleasant experience.
I bet. Austin?
So this was my junior year of high school. It was preseason basketball weightlifting. I had about 250 on the squat rack for a warm-up, and as I went back, I tripped, and I got my right index finger caught between all the weight on the side of the bar and the side of the rack, and I ended up completely shattering the bone in the bottom of my finger, and I tore the extensor tendon 3/4 of the way through. Had I torn it all the way through, they would have had to put something in there to help me straighten my finger again. And even to this day, I can't fully straighten it on its own. So we can never be number one. We can only ever be number half. So
too much information. Turning the mic off.
That's the worst I got.
Oh, yeah. It gives me the willies thinking about that.
I got pictures if you ever want to see sometime.
No thanks.
No.
Keep that to yourself. All right, good stuff. By the way, Jim in Sumner says the tank is still on the trailer. So,
okay, good.
So the guy just
I'm glad the guy just didn't unhook the tank from the trailer and take the trailer with him.
No, so obviously he had issues and he had to go get his truck fixed or something. But
thanks for letting us know that. That was a big mysterious piece to this puzzle.
Yeah, I saw pictures on Twitter earlier today of the tank sitting there. That's just quite a story. So hopefully South Dakota is sending a rescue mission to get their.
Yes.
Get their tank back. All right, phone lines back open for you. 531-500-4686, 531-500-4686. That is also our U.S. Cellular text line if you want to just shoot us a text with a thought of any of the topics of the day. Back with more Sports Nightly next. 531-500-4686, the number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question or shoot us a text. In fact, let's start on our text line, Ben. This one is, do you fear losing any of our current football coaching staff to other teams that might be poaching us the same way recruits may be swayed away?
No. That thought hasn't really crossed my mind, to be honest with you.
All right.
Not to say it's not possible. It's just I haven't thought about it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the phones. Jonathan in Omaha, you're going to join us next. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hey, Brother Greg, how you doing?
Fantastic, thanks.
Hey, so I just have an opinion about who, as Husker Nation, we should root for if we don't have Husker football this year.
Yeah,
out of respect, they're our former rival, Oklahoma. Why not? Honestly, because if you're a real Husker fan on the day of the Cotton Bowl, who roots for Texas? You're not a Husker fan if you root for Texas in the Cotton Bowl. And that rivalry was just pure respect, similar kind of fan base situation. No pro sports down there. Not including the Thunder now, but I've been down to a few of those away games. Good, wholesome people. We wish each other luck afterwards. Why not?
Okay, very good. I have no distaste for OU, so that's fine. That's okay. I think more fans may kind of do that, Ben, than we think. They may pick somebody, and maybe it's going to be a lot of the old Big 8 teams that we've known and played against for decades. Maybe that's where maybe people will do that. Maybe they'll kind of adopt somebody.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could definitely see that. I don't disagree with what he said about OU. I think more people have a disdain and bad taste for the Longhorns than they do the Sooners. Although Oklahoma was our actual big time rival back in the day. We will play Oklahoma hopefully a couple of times here soon. So
next year.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a few people, thinking along those same lines for sure.
How about this? This is wild. Oklahoma is set to play on September the 12th, Missouri State out of the Missouri Valley Conference. That is going to be their only game of the fall. So Missouri State's going through practice right now to play one game because the Missouri Valley's moved everything else to the spring. So they're getting geared up to go play one game against a top 10 team in Oklahoma on the road. How about that? How wacky is that?
It's like the longest yard.
Yeah,
getting geared up to play against the guards.
One game.
That's crazy. Man,
it's just bizarre. Austin had this in the ticker. The Chiefs have come out with an announcement today. They are going to ban headdresses and face paint at Arrowhead Stadium. You will be turned away at the gate if you arrive with those things or if you try to put them on when you're in the stands. I think we kind of thought this was coming, didn't we?
Yeah, I really, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Chiefs fan. I got my AFC champion shirt on tonight. But I do appreciate the fact the Chiefs have done this a lot recently. They've done a lot of investigating and consulting with the Native American kind of spokespeople about their name, about their feelings, about the traditions, about everything that kind of entails Native American culture that was carried over by the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, personally, I always thought it was kind of cool to see the headdresses and the face paint. But if you're doing consulting and those people are telling you, this is crossing a line, this is not something that we want to see folks that aren't, true Chiefs or part of our culture replicate, I totally respect that. So, if they're setting the tone on this deal and they're relaying to Kansas City's people what they feel is and isn't appropriate, who am I to say that I disagree with it? I mean, I think that no one knows that better than they do. The fact of the matter is the Chiefs have done all kinds of things to kind of coincide and show respect to the Native American people while holding that name, meaning, having the ceremonial drum beat before the game and, doing different things that show respect and honor to the name as opposed to demean it, copy it, and those types of things. So I obviously being a Chiefs fan, I do appreciate the fact that they're going that extra mile and maintaining that relationship. I would much rather do this and have people not wear headdresses or face paint or do the tomahawk chop or whatever it is that that they find insulting if it means we get to keep our brand. We get to keep our team. We get to keep supporting them. They're the team that we've known and grown up to love. And to see that arrowhead on the side of the helmet, if that means we get to keep all that, then I'm all for it. And if the Native American people, aren't voicing displeasure with what the Chiefs are doing, I don't see that ever being a relationship that gets tarnished or the Chiefs having to become the Kansas City football organization.
Yeah. I think it's a good move, good preemptive move by the Chiefs. We'll see where it goes from there. Let's go back to the phone. Kelly in Kansas up next. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just a comment, and then that's the question for you to comment on. Is the Big Ten, I'm going to this Freedom of Information Act thought process. These universities are public institutions other than, say, Northwestern. Why can't they just show us simple how each university voted, thumbs up or thumbs down on the season, and then you can debate some facts? I don't know why that's not told. So I'll just hang up and listen to your comments.
That's a great point because all other than Northwestern, they're all public institutions that get public funding. And so with that comes that you should be more transparent about things. In fact, a group of Nebraska parents have filed a lawsuit asking for a lot of the things that you have just laid out. Nebraska parents have, and it's a group of parents, and at the top of the line is Ed and Lisa McCaffrey, Luke McCaffrey's mom and dad, and obviously Ed was an NFL player. They are demanding documents from the Big Ten on the postponement decision. They want to see some of the things that you laid out right there in your call. They want to see documents. They want to hear audio recordings of the President's Council meetings. whatever is available, and they've asked for a Tuesday deadline before they file a petition in Nebraska court. So I don't know what good this does. I don't know if this just is just going to stir up more trouble, but you've got people that are still fighting along. Also, the Snodgrasses are listed on this thing as well, and Glenn Snodgrass, the longtime head football coach at York High School, his name is on this list as well. I saw him tweet something, Ben, I think it was either earlier today or yesterday, that this is not over. I didn't quite know what he meant. I do now that I see his name on this list of this lawsuit that's being filed against the Big Ten. But it's a fair point. These, outside of Northwestern, these are public institutions that are going to have to comply with the Freedom of Information Act, and there's going to be people that are going to file and want to see the records of these meetings that were held. I'm still suspicious about the vote thing because I know Teddy pointed out Sandy Barber, the AD at Penn State, who wouldn't have probably been on the call with the presidents. But we have a president and the Minnesota president who said, no, we really didn't take a vote. Ronnie Green said they did, but the Minnesota president a week or so ago said, yeah, we really didn't take a vote. So I think I don't know if this does any good. Former State Senator Mike Flood is representing this group of players and a parent group that has now sent this thing to the commissioner's office.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this all is this all could be avoided with the transparent commissioner. You know, like none of these steps would feel necessary if we knew all this information, if he would just say it. I was on our Omaha affiliate earlier today, and I said the same thing. People would be mad and frustrated that there was no season. There's no doubt. But no one would be calling for Kevin Warren's head if he presented it like, this is our case, these are our facts, here's some of the medical advice we've been given by the experts that we're talking about, and this is the way it's going to be. You may not like it, but this is how we're going to proceed. If he stuck to his guns, presented an argument, presented a vote, all this stuff, he would have just come out and said all that instead of giving us a bunch of fluff nonsense, then all of this could have been avoided. But instead, he chose the other route, and it's led to all of this. And, you know, his reputation wouldn't have been drug around in the dirt or tarnished if he came out and said, this is how it's going to be, this is why we think that, agree or disagree, this is the way that it is. But instead he chose a different route, and that's where people are so upset with him. And there was even a hashtag, Fire Kevin Warren, going around the last few days where people really, really, really want to change in leadership already with the new commissioner.
Yeah, Kelly, great call, and thank you. That led me into that because I saw that on Twitter about an hour ago about this lawsuit filed by Nebraska parents of football players and hadn't gotten to it yet here tonight. 531-500-4686. That's the number if you want to dot us up with a comment or question. We'll take some more calls next. Sports Nightly Hotline brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Andy Staples, a writer for The Athletic, covers college football. He's got a piece up right now, and basically he is saying that Kevin Warren should grant an audience to the Big Ten football parents who are looking for answers and to why the decision was made to postpone fall sports. As Andy says, they deserve those answers. Failing that, they at least deserve to be heard. And I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a mistake if Kevin Warren doesn't show up at this parent rally tomorrow in Chicago. I don't think he will.
He's working remotely.
Yes, he is. I think what's it hurt him to go out there for 20 minutes and listen to their complaints and try to answer a few questions of people? I think it would be a decent PR move. It probably wouldn't accomplish a lot, but I think he would score some PR points if he did that.
No doubt, especially when he's making decisions on behalf of their kids. I mean, it's one thing to handle the media, it's one thing to handle the schools, it's one thing to handle athletic directors, but, you know, kind of comes with the territory. Parents are protective of their kids, and, you know, when, you know, something like this happens, they want answers. Doesn't really make sense to just ignore it and just sweep it under the rug and keep playing Minesweeper on your computer or whatever it is that he does all day.
Oh, God. Ben, the NBA draft lottery has been held. The Minnesota Timberwolves will get the first pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Oh, I know a Timberwolves fan. He's going to be happy with that. And the Golden State Warriors get the number 2 pick. How about that for the multi-champion of the NBA over the last decade? They're going to get the number 2 pick. Charlotte's in the 3-hole. Chicago 4, Cleveland 5, Atlanta 6, Detroit 7. I kind of forgot that was going on tonight, but there it is. The Timberwolves get the number 1 pick. Who is that pick? Is it the big kid from Memphis?
They got it too late. They got it 1 year too late. Could have had old Zion.
Yeah.
There isn't a Zion in this class, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think the big kid from Memphis that only played a handful of games before he got told that he'd taken improper money. I think that's the guy that a lot of people think will be the number 1 pick in the draft. So Timberwolves fans, celebrate. Yay. It's kind of like when the Chiefs had the number 1 pick, they took an offensive lineman.
Yeah, another bad year to have the number 1 pick.
Now, he's been fine. He's been okay, but you just don't want to have to take an offensive lineman if you have the number 1 pick in the NFL. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth.